of you aware of what all has been going on the waterways with tubing. And I want to state up front my opinion that this is not about stopping tubing on our waterways at all. Because as you know, people come from way around other areas, other parishes to enjoy fishing and skiing and boating and tubing on our waterways. But this has reached a point to where I would like to ask you all through the ordinance committee to possibly consider, and maybe you already have it, looking at some things from a safety standpoint that we can put in place in an ordinance. Things like a type 3 life vest. Now, that sounds simple, but as an ordinance group, you would have to, and you all know this better than I do, but you'll have to look at who would be responsible for providing the life vests, because these are individuals and adults making a decision to go tubing. So would it fall on them as it is with the state law where the individuals are responsible for bringing their life vest and wearing them? And then who's going to patrol it? As you know, on special events like Pocono runs and all these other things, Tickfall 200, the sheriff's department monitors these waterways when these events are going on. But this is a business type thing that's operating a little differently. So who would be responsible for providing the life vests? Would it be up to the business owners or would it be up to the individual? So somebody would have to make that decision, and possibly that can be addressed through the ordinance. And then what age group? Maybe you look at an age group that would have to wear them. Maybe because you know, adults tend to take their life vest off when they're in the boats. They tend to take them off after they ski a while when they get comfortable, and they take them off when they're fishing. So someone would have to monitor that. So it sounds simple to say life vests, and I know you all know this, but I do think it's time that we look at something like that for tubing. Possibly some sort of monitoring system that who would provide it. I guess the business owner would be tasked with that. That whatever route they're tubing, whatever business is operating in, and whatever route they're tubing, maybe they could hire a deputy, or maybe they could have some monitoring system, camera system, or something like that in place. And then rules and regulations. So I guess what I'm talking about is not stopping anybody from going on our waterways and doing what they enjoy to do. And I'm not being insensitive to those who have lost loved ones, because none of us want to see anybody lose anybody on the waterways. And all, but the truth of the matter is, for every accident we hear boating, skiing, fishing, or tubing, you have 100 others that day that did the exact same thing that had a wonderful day. So I don't think it's about stopping the activity, but I do think it's time that we look at possibly putting some safety things in place that could prevent possibly, hopefully, prayerfully, these tragic things from happening in the future. And I'm asked this all the time: how do you make somebody stay in the tubes? Well, you can't. You can tell them they should, but some of these areas are so shallow that they might have to get out of the tubes. And if the water has risen 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches, it's obviously going to be a faster current, and it's going to probably be muddier than it typically would be. So if there's debris in the water and it's risen to that point, they're not going to see it. So if they get out of the tube, step into there, they could get snagged, get hung up. These things are happening now. I don't know necessarily in an ordinance how you can shape this up to be fair to people that are doing this every day, but also consider it to the safety aspect of what people have gone through in the past. And you know, and it's tragic when you lose somebody in the waterway. Nobody wants to see that happen. So I do think it's time that through an ordinance, we look at something, you all look at something that we can possibly do to help solve some of these issues, if it's possible to do that. And then who would be responsible for it and those kind of things. Chairman, that's really all I had to say on that. I mean, I think life vest is definitely the way to start. If we don't do anything else but life vest, we need to do that.
What we're going to do is Tracy called another ordinance committee meeting for next Tuesday, which would be the 31st at 6 o'clock. We went over the safety tip for tubing guidelines that you had sent forward earlier. We're going to look at those things and try to figure out how to implement a lot of those in the ordinance form and That's what we're going to talk about, as I understand it,
Okay.
next Tuesday night.
Okay. And I know some of those are not doable, Chairman. I know that, but it is some things that we researched and found that some areas are looking at.
I got you. At this point in time, I'm going to take a little point of personal privilege as a chairman. There are two individuals that would like to come speak to this council. And we're going to allow them an opportunity to come and speak to us tonight. We're hoping that they limit them to about 4 or 5 minutes each. I know it's going to add some time to the meeting, but I think they have something they'd like to say. We're gonna give them an opportunity, and they're going to talk about an incident that occurred on the river, and they're going to encourage us to try to find a solution. So if you would indulge me this point of personal privilege, I would like to, Ms. Hilliard, are you on the Zoom right now?
Both are. I am definitely.
Okay, whichever one would like to go first, y'all figure out who's going first and who's going second, and introduce yourself and your address, and then tell us your concerns and what you'd like to see this council, take up in the future.
Hi, Mr. President and the council members. My name is Lisa Hilliard.
Ms. Hilliard.
I live at 12853 Park Lane Drive in Central. My husband drowned on June 19th. And I've heard you say a lot of things about putting life vests in place and different things like that. But you have to first start with the businesses that's on the river, with the education, of course. Also posting signs. If this is a historical river, there should be a sign posted about the Amite River and the history thereof, the depth of the river, so that customers and patrons are fully aware of what they're walking into. We did not get that opportunity. My husband wanted to do a fun day for Father's Day. We didn't get that opportunity to get the history and the dangers of the river the day that we visited. So now I hear people talking about the storm and the sandbags. My husband's not here. So who fills my sandbags for me? Who do I feed dinner at night? President Riggs. Who do I lean over to kiss? Mr. Talbot. Who do I gather with when me and my boys are praying? Mr. Bubba Harris. Please tell me, what do I do in a situation like this? When another family steps forward, there is still no education. There is still no safety protocols in place. Certified life vests, yes, but definitely inform the consumers prior to entering the water, the dangers of the water, the depth of the water, the accidents that has transpired. I just do not think that we were given a fair opportunity to choose on that day. Yes, I'm an adult. My husband, my children are adults, but we were brought in to this beautiful painted picture of a fun-filled day for a family. That's not what we got. And the truth, you say start with life vests. We have to start with the truth, Mr. Riggs. And the truth is the business has to be accountable with providing the truth to their consumers. They are collecting the money. They are placing these individuals on the river. There are no guides. There are no signs. And people are getting on the river blindsided. I just ask that you search your hearts. I know that the river is not going to close because of all the activities and all of the people that enjoy it. So you say, but we still have, and I would question in your term, how many deaths in your term, President Riggs? How many accidents? How many injuries? Way too many. There have been way too many. And so it's time for us to step up and make a good effort at doing what's right, not just for our community, but for people nationwide.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Hilliard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hilliard.
Van Euro.
Yes, thank you. I am Kim Hilliard Bangora. I am Keith's twin sister, and I'm thanking you all for hearing me tonight. Um, I would immediately like to address the president, Mr. Ricks. It concerns me every time I hear you make the statement about adults. Listen, tiki tubing is a business that so many have enjoyed. And so many have also walked away in pain, like my family. Um, I I'm just struggling with hearing these people are adults that go on this adventure. Absolutely, and they should be adults. I believe that when we start sitting down and talking and collaborating about what safety measures should be put in place, one should be relative to adults with children, how children present themselves on this river. I had the misfortune amongst all the busy things I have to do. I read a lot. I have a lot to read, and I've been reading past, I think, dating back to 2000, maybe 11, 12, 13, the different reviews and stuff of this place, and it's been horrifying. So yes, I think that, look, my brother was wonderful, and so many know that, and so many have seen that, and I do believe that he was here. His purpose was to come, to be, to exist, and to make so many friends of all kinds. He was a wonderful community person, and then he was to die at that river, so that maybe now we would all convene to talk about making this place safer. I think that, along with my sister-in-law, that there should be so much more education. I believe that there should be ownership by Tiki Tubing. They are collecting the dollars. I'm sure so much of that is also funneling into the community, and that's a beautiful thing. That is what we want to happen. But I also think that nobody's hands should be tied. I've heard that in number. I've read it. I've heard it come out of your mouth, Mr. President, that our hands are tied as it relates to tiki tubing. And I believe that is just unbelievable to hear. My mind wanders when I hear that, because I'm thinking, how could one's hands be tied when you are supplying the medical support and so the hands cannot be tied. I've read commentary from community members that are concerned about the safety on the river. I'll tell you, I'll be the first to say, I've never thought close tiki tubing. Tiki tubing draws people in from Texas, Alabama, Mississippi. Louisiana is my home. I live in a suburb of Georgia, small, cute little place, very much like Livingston. So Louisiana is my home. I live in Georgia. I pay taxes in Louisiana because I own a home there. So it is precious to me, it's important to me. I think that in good faith, everybody in this meeting should be interested in doing something that has a safe, fun outlet for the people. I'm a firm believer in that. So to say closing is not an option, well, guess what? You and I are on the same page about that. But I do think tiki tubing, I don't know why they're not here tonight. There should be some ownership of some safety measures. One of the things that has also disturbed me is just the account of that day for my family, when my brother asked many questions, one of which had to do with the depth of the water. And the tiki tubing person said, waist high, 4 feet. Well, guess what? That is not true. And so, you know what? I think, so it brings me to argue about just some education related to the safety, because even I myself, I've whitewater rafted and done some of those things. I've fished, and I'm a Louisiana girl. So nobody wants to take that stuff away. But I also know that I've traveled, and when I've traveled and visited venues, there's always safety. So I don't think that what they do in terms of that waiver is adequate at all. And you all should be concerned about that. It does not take much for tiki tubing to provide some extra education and then require people to sign. And then, Mr. Ricks, you can comfortably say, these were adults and they signed that waiver. The signing of that waiver in such a blind fashion is amazing to me. And you all should be concerned about that.
Well, let me say thank you. And that is the reason we're meeting tonight. And that is the reason we're talking about it, is safety and education. So I appreciate your comments, but understand when I say that my hands are tied, the reason my hands are tied is I don't legally have an ordinance in place, because we've never passed an ordinance that allows me to go up there and address this until we get something in place.
Okay.
So it sounds like we're all on the same page, just using different language.
Okay.
And I think, and hopefully we'll have something in place after this. Chairman, before we go, I'd like to say a couple other things, if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
That I didn't have listed. First of all, as many of you know, we're all dealing with COVID, and you know, and we lost a good friend last night, a former council member, and that's the reason I'm singling him out. Everyone's important, and I don't mean to be insensitive to that, but Mr. Don Wheat did pass away, former Councilman Don Wheat. He fought a courageous battle with it, but he did lose his life with COVID. I believe it was last night, late sometime. So I wanted to mention that, our prayers with his family, and certainly with everyone in the community and all around the country that are dealing with that. The other thing is, I did just want to update everyone that we are prepared, as prepared we can be for the storm that seemingly is heading our way. These things can still turn, we know that, but we have been in touch with the fire districts on sand and sandbags and barricades and things like that to make sure we're ready to go for that. So we don't have any last minute things that we have to do. We may still